Good morning, people. Thanks for the feedback on the last video about I, thou, I, it relating. Let's expand that conversation a little bit. I know that many people struggle with these ideas initially, and they have every right in the world to do so because there are individuals out there who are canny enough that they use the lingo of love or I thou relating in a very toxic and manipulative I it manner. And it's really important that we understand that the use of these kinds of ideas in a violent and adversarial manner does not mean that the ideas themselves are wrong. We simply have to be tuned into the fact that many people operate, even in the context of love, empathy, relating, all the rest, from an I, it, and exploitive point of view. Yes, even love is used exploitively. Now, with a little nose and a little training by which one susses this stuff out, it becomes conspicuous quite quickly how people game empathy as a tool to coerce and exploit. But, fundamentally, what we're talking about is the dichotomy between relating I, it, and I, thou. I, it sees other as object, not person. Its relationship to other is one of exploitation rather than cooperation. I, thou relating sees other as person, of being with individual consciousness and sovereignty, of independence, of something worthy of respect. And the relationship is inherently complementary. So, let's think about it in this manner, okay? Let's give us a really good toxic example of manipulative love. Let's say that you've got a couple, all right? And it doesn't matter what kind of couple they are, they come in 16 varieties today. And X says to Y, because Y came home from work a little late, X says to Y, I am angry because of what you did to me, and I feel abandoned. All right, now that is classic I-it relating and toxic empathy. All right. First of all, Y is not responsible for X's feelings, ever. You're both sovereign individuals. You're responsible for your own feelings as adults. Second of all, X is using the term feel in a very insincere and exploitive manner. X doesn't feel abandoned. They may feel sad. They may feel lonely. They may feel, in fact, angry. They may feel tired. Those are feelings. But to feel abandoned is a judgment because it presumes that X knows that Y had motivations, something that X isn't privy to. And as such, it's I-it relating because it does not represent or respect an understanding that Y is a sovereign other person and individual, and their motivations, while it's appropriate to ask of them, cannot be merely assumed. Does that make sense? You have every right to your feelings, but your feelings end at the surface of your skin. You cannot be presuming judgments as to the source or cause of your feelings onto other people without it being an act of aggression. This is very, very commonly done. Now, of course, this is much of the reason that many of us have an allergy to hearing people talk about their feelings, because very often the kinds of people that talk about feelings are not actually talking about feelings, they're actually talking about judgments about our actions, not their feelings. Again, everybody has a right to their feelings, but feelings are internal. Yes, sadness, hunger, lonely, horny, those are feelings. You have a right to all of those feelings, right? If you are claiming to feel betrayed or neglected or disrespected, you're not being truthful, because in all of those cases, you are exhibiting a judgment as to the motivation of another individual, and you simply don't have the right to do that if you are interested in practicing interactions with other people that are not inherently aggressive. Now, of course, none of this means or suggests that you cannot come to a conclusion, in fact, a judgment, and think that another person, for example, has betrayed you. Just don't conflate that with feelings. Right? And certainly, to come to conclusions that are evidence-based, judgments that are justified, and the rest will take time. It will take the gathering of evidence. It will require the asking of questions and the answering of questions. And if you come to the point where you are convinced, given time, that betrayal is the correct interpretation of another person's actions, and that it does give you insight into their motivations, regardless of what they may tell you their motivations might be, well, nobody is disputing that. This isn't crazy. But if you're going to a state of judgment and claiming that judgments are feelings, and you do that immediately with the lack of evidence, like so many people do, and they claim that they have a right to make snap decisions and judgments about the motivations of other people because it falls under some big blanket of feelings and empathy, which it clearly does not. Now, these are individuals that are gaming feelings as an attempt to manipulate and coerce and punish. And it's really important to make a distinction between the two. But this can even get sneakier. Let's suppose that X and Y go to the Quasi-Mandaean school for synergistic relating, and they come home and they replay the tape on Y's coming home late. Okay? So X has gotten really savvy about this now, even more cunning than before. So they're trying to work through these judgments being acts of aggression. So X says, when Y comes home late the second time, I feel sad, I feel lonely, I feel alone, I feel tired because I've been waiting to have dinner. Why is it that you came home so late? And of course, Y feels immediately faced with aggression once again, okay, because X has gotten even sneakier in their judging and judgment, because they're asking the question, why? Why is it that you're home late? Because implicit in why is a reason, right? And a motivation. And the accusation of there being a deliberate choice on the part of Y to be getting at X. Okay? So we're all set up for coercion, punishment, and the rest already. I mean, certainly it is appropriate to ask questions and to understand what the circumstances might be that created the result of Y being home late. But we must be super sensitive about respecting the dignity of other people and not projecting our own paranoia upon them, right? And certainly not gaming the system as a way to manipulate them through guilt or regret or whatever in some kind of crazy transactional tit-for-tat manner. Just imagine how much less loaded it would be. Rather than asking, why are you late? You could ask, what happened to you so that you ended up late? Because in that case, there's respect in that second question for the circumstances that may have been beyond the control of why. There is a good faith assertion there that is, as much as possible, absent of accusation. Now, of course, X could be tired and lonely and hungry and all the rest. That's fine, but that's X's problem. X does have a natural right to want to know what the circumstances were that made for the tardy arrival of Y. But X has a responsibility as a person who is relating in an I-thou manner to be respectful and not aggressive towards the dignity, the sovereignty of other. Okay. Now, again, I'm only getting into this stuff because, again, I'm making the assertion that relationships and the tools that we use for relationships apply across all scales and in all forms of relating. I mean, these same things apply to your relationship with a forest or an ecosystem or your inner self just as much as they do to your intimate partners. It's just that many of us have spent more time thinking about how to relate to intimate partners than perhaps anything else. So it becomes an appropriate thought model for us to then expand our skill in healthy relating to other things. That's why I'm getting into it. It's really important for a lot of us who can feel, and I certainly have in my past too, a aversion to this kind of thinking. Again, to recognize that this kind of thinking isn't a problem and something that a person should find an aversion to. In fact, they should find it very attractive. It's just that there are many, many people who use this kind of languaging in a very destructive, exploitive, and manipulative manner. And we need to be very clear in how to use these terms appropriately and what constitutes inappropriate use of this kind of language so that we can tell the difference. Anyway, I hope that provides something for you to reflect on. It's a touch nuanced, but it's the kind of stuff that can be really eye-opening if you spend the time to reflect on it. Cheers.